Hello, hello. Yes, my podcast listeners. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of the Real Stuff podcast. I am Franco. I'm DJ Franco. I have moderator Flavius Coach Lately is here with me too. We have 2 important guests on the phone lines today. Acting Colonel Marcia Douglas, leader of Charleston Maroons, Charleston, Portland, Jamaica, and Professor Victoria Grieves, now also Williams, is an Aboriginal person, Marimlai, from the mid-north coast of NSW, and an historian. Victoria research interests include colonial history, particularly the history of the Aboriginal family, race, gender, and intersectionality, particularly as played out in Australian society in the colonial period. Her writings include Aboriginal spirituality, Aboriginal philosophy, basis of Aboriginal social and emotional well-being. So, Flavius, are you there with me? Okay, I want you to take it away.
Okay, good morning, viewers, good morning all. Today we're going to today we're going to be looking at, again like yesterday, the COVID-19 pandemic, but today we are looking how it's affecting the Aboriginal, the Indigenous community across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And today we are very fortunate to have 2 esteemed guests, Acting Colonel Douglas, who is a Maroon, which is an Indigenous people. So we get first on knowledge as it relates to the Charleston Maroon. And my very good friend, Professor Greaves, who is a major authority on Indigenous knowledge across the world. So we are very blessed this morning, and they will give us their take on what is happening and how the Aborigines and the Indigenous people as a whole are coping at this time. So if you could both just say a few words and then we can jump into it.
Who wants to go first?
I must say to you all, Nante, and Nante means welcome. And Kwaba, which is good morning. So welcome listeners and viewers to the program, and good morning. Of course, here in Charleston, we are like everybody else in the country is going under that pandemic strain this moment. But is what we do while going through it, and how we take our body through it, how we take our minds through it, and the indigeneity of our own perspective through it. And so what we do, we learn to manage ourselves as an individual, as a community, and as Indigenous nation.
Vicky?
Hello, good morning. Lovely to be here with you, Flavius and Marcia, who I know, and Franco, who I've just met this morning.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, Marcia. It's so important for Indigenous people to take the power and look after their own interests during this crisis. And I've been following closely the course of this infection around the world, and of course I'm now living near New York City. It's really a hotbed of infection here. It's very concerning, and I've noticed it's quite difficult. I've been searching for news on the web since I was invited to speak with you this morning, it's quite difficult to get news about Indigenous people and this infection. But yeah, I'm interested to hear what everyone has to say. Thank you.
Okay, I must before I go on, I must tell the listeners of a connection between Marcia or Colonel and Vicky, in that the Charleston Maroons have a conference each year, conference and festival. And from that conference and festival, we produce a magazine. And Vicky is the editor of that magazine. So Franco, let's go.
Yeah, well, the ball is in their court, Can go ahead and talk about what is happening with the indigenous people right now.
Okay. Let's do it this way. Between Vicky and Marcia, if you could just give us a little thing about what's your take on the whole situation before we move into the specific indigenous situation. What's your take on what is happening now? Because the world has been shut down. Well, the first time in my lifetime anyway, completely shut down, and nobody is telling you anything directly. We're not hearing anything from any official, health or government officials. All we are hearing is social distancing, wash your hands, and that's about it.
Well, Flavius, I must say, my take on it is it's not as visual as it should be. So there's no real clarity to the pandemic that people can really understand more about it. What I gather though is that the ministry or the government themselves are trying to understand this thing. I've been on many sites, trying to find out what exactly it is, how to treat it. Now, this virus is not like any that I've studied on site to see. To say let's compare it to or can be compared to. What it does do though, it does put the world on a standstill. And for those standstill moments, what I think people should do, what I'm doing, I'm just sitting back, meditating, look my next way forward, my next very best thing. What I would like to see for me, for my community, for a future generation, our children, and how best to keep us, apart from the disease or the virus, to walk in that line of prosperity and to stay together as a people. Social distance is one of the things that I try to study. What can you achieve by distancing yourself from people? What can you not achieve when you distance yourself from people? Or is it important for social distance and much more? Now, it was this case when it announced to Jamaica, it was at 3 cases. Then when they're talking about reopening school or online study, it was 163 cases. Now, yesterday, when I listened to the news, it was 200 and plus. What are we not doing as a nation? What is the first thing that we should have been doing? What are the natural stuff that our foreparents would have done? And how is it that our foreparents would have played a vital part in this? How some of their knowledges, some of their way of life would have really shared and play a vital part in this.
Okay.
Thanks, Vicky.
Okay. Yes. Well, I'd like to just paint a picture of the larger situation for Indigenous people, and there's an estimate of about 370 million Indigenous people out of the indigenous out of the people in the world.
Okay.
We've got 9 billion people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's 370 billion people, my mistake. But I think the indigenous people are much more than that. It's a very low estimate because of the way the definitions go. You know, for example, I'd be surprised if the Maroon people of Jamaica were included in that figure. It's quite, you know, it doesn't go into the details. There are many more Indigenous people in the world than people generally think, and it's as much as 7 billion of that 9 billion people. And I'm talking about people who are Indigenous because they really do not have, because they're conquered people, they've been colonised, and they don't have a real say in the operation of the nation state in which they live. They're generally living in poverty. They don't have access to a lot of resources that the elite populations do. And we're looking at a lot of people. We're looking at people who have been said to be the sentinels for the Anthropocene. And that means that they are the people, if you like, the first offenders. They're the ones that are in the line of fire when it comes to anything to do with climate change. The Anthropocene is the new age in which we live, whereby every single part of the world has been impacted on by the activity of humans. And the layer that's going down in the Earth's crust, by which geologists, they dig down and they have developed this idea of different ages of the world, the deep geological time. This layer that's going down now, increasingly over the last 1,000 years or so, is the product of human activity on Earth. It includes concrete and radioactivity, plastic. It's an age like the world has never seen before. And as we know, it's incredibly damaging to the natural world. So Indigenous people have been out there at the forefront trying to defend their lands, to retain their lands from encroachments, increasing encroachments of miners and loggers, and people want their water because the huge population of the Earth is threatening to take over what Indigenous peoples have a right to. And unfortunately, they are also at the forefront when it comes to dealing with this virus. I'm really happy that in Australia, the Aboriginal people have been very proactive and they've shut down their communities. They're able to do that in the more remote parts of Australia. And they often have gates, and so they've shut them down. They don't want visitors. People are not coming in anymore, and they have very strict rules about how people go out. This means they've got to change everything. They've got to change how they get their food. A lot of them are getting water from outside because their water has dried up. And so this is, I think, a fantastic attribute that Indigenous people have, is flexibility in dealing with enormous change.
True.
And the small knowledge I've got about the Maroon community in Jamaica, I know they've been able to do that. They've got ways and means that they've developed over the years, and all of the example of the great leaders during the struggle of Maroon people to retain their lands, and the historic battles they fought against outsiders who want to take over. All of those things are also attributes in other Indigenous people around the world. And people, I think, need to go back and lean on all of the ethics and the moral, if you like, for want of a better word, the morality and the way of being of their own people in order to deal with this huge challenge. The other thing that I'd say is the awful irony of this virus and all of the SARS virus. They're coming out of the destruction of the natural world.
Mm-hmm.
So these viruses are able to jump species. So they jump from pigs or from bats or from horses even, example in Australia a few years ago, to humans because of the close proximity now to the natural world, where, you know, the natural world, I know in Australia, Aboriginal people had sanctuaries for the wildlife. So there were sanctuaries that people never went into.
Okay.
Where these, animals and other species, trees and so on, could grow unmolested, if you like. And they had very strict rules about hunting at different times of the year and so on. And there was a distance, a respectful distance between people and the species and so on.
Absolutely.
Now, you have markets around the world where increasingly people have to eat wild food. And these animals are being cut up around people. Their raw flesh is around. People have to work in very close proximity to the bodily fluids and so on of these animals. And this is the problem we've got, that, human beings have to eat, and they're consuming more and more things from the natural world. Where the real problem is that the world is overpopulated.
Wow.
This is the greatest population the world's ever known, 9 billion people and growing. Several children born every minute around the world. So even as I'm saying 9 billion, it's already many, many more than that. Indigenous people, because of their poverty and their lack of resources to be able to deal with this virus, when it hits their communities, they're in real danger.
Vicky.
Yes.
You said that the world population is increasing, right, day by day. But isn't it also cleansing itself as well?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well, Marcus.
Yes, Franco, you said the world population.
Oh, Franco, sorry.
The world population is increasing. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, but isn't it? Doesn't it we call it cleanse itself by people dying and then a new birth as well?
Yeah, all the time. But for example, I've done my family genealogy, and my family goes back to a Scotsman and an Aboriginal woman,
Okay.
Who married in 1861. And in 100 years, they had 3,000 descendants. That's two people. Two people with 3,000 descendants. That's pretty amazing.
That's good.
But they had 9 children. 7 of those 9 children had 10 children or more.
Yeah.
And then it goes on. It's like a pyramid.
True.
So the world's population is increasing exponentially. And there was a guy called Malthus who warned the world about that in, I think, something like the 17th century. He could see that coming.
But this been dated back from, what do you call it, Aristotle, Socrates, and them guys there. They were talking about world population back then. and now in our time, it's still been mentioning. So to how you mention it, is it like I know that humanity can cleanse itself, so somebody people die and there's a new birth as well. That's how I'm looking
Yeah.
at it. Because I am thinking, I don't I'm this is just my opinion. I don't think the overpopulation of mankind, can get this place, to destruct, to be destroyed by how, man is looking at it. It's like man need to have a ethnic cleansing in order for the population to what? To decrease or stabilize.
And then I think when you say ethnic cleansing, it will relate back to what the for parents
Uh-huh.
does. Because, for example, back in the day, when you have pneumonia, there was no ventilation system for people to be on.
Yeah,
If people cured of pneumonia,
true.
when the breakout of what's the name of that disease again? Cholera.
Mm-hmm.
Many people survived that cholera breakdown right here in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I was told by my grandfather why we have here in Charleston a cholera cemetery is that after the disease were out, they used um, different herbs and medicine to really cure people. But then, in a sense, when people die from various diseases, what they do as our foreparents is that they were not buried in a regular cemetery like everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
or close to a spot that people will be using in the near future. After a certain amount of years, you do not dig up those places. It won't be cholera that will be breaking out. It'll be another disease, another, you know. So what they did was to make the necessary preparation, then teach us
Mm-hmm.
about it. So in doing that, they teach us how to control um, our immune system, how to fight certain diseases, how to, you know, if it's not cured by cure, but at least to control it to a certain level.
True,
And of
true.
course, learning that, we know that that's one of the way we can purify our generation as they come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give them the different herbs for different things, the knowledge. Now, the first purification begins with the knowledge. Without the knowledge, they will not know what to do.
True,
How
true.
do I build my immune system without actually going back and forth to the hospital to take those chemical drugs?
Yeah.
How do I do that? What are the natural things that we need to use? How do I ensure that my child is okay, um, physically, spiritually, and mentally?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do I get them to a level to understand that, hey, this is what's happening now. This is how we need to take care of it.
Yeah.
Do we depend on the ministry to tell us that to wash our hands, to keep from rubbing our eyes, and all that? What do we do? And so these are some of the things that we need to look into as a people, as a nation,
Mm.
in order to start the regeneration, the purification structure, and also to know that, of course, we are passing the message and the knowledge on. Apart from just washing your hands and wiping your surfaces and so on, what do we intake? How do we intake certain medicines? Which medicines good at this moment to take?
And the
Um,
food too that
why
we
do we
eat.
eat certain food?
Yeah, the
You
food that
know,
we eat.
how do we prepare our meals?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important to prepare our meals a certain way? These are some of the things that we need to look at. What do we
Well,
drink during the day? You know, instead of a soda or a orange juice from the shop, why not go green juice? Why not drink some apple leaf with coconut water? Those are the things that we are looking into.
True, true, true. Absolutely.
my problem with this whole COVID thing is that to date, you can correct me if I'm wrong, nobody has come out from anywhere to say what it is. What are we fighting? We are just
Exactly.
in the dark. People are dying. We have people in the hospital, the doctors and the scientists and whatever, and all they talk about is ventilators.
Well,
Nobody is
What I
saying,
said, up until today, there's no point.
yeah,
Nobody say it is this disease.
right. So my question, Vicky, is can you actually build a vaccine for something that you don't know what it is? How is that possible? Or
Well, they've been able to isolate the virus. You know, they can, and they're working with it. But there's a real problem with developing a vaccine because of the nature of this virus. They've not been able to develop a vaccine for any of these viruses that have skipped over species.
okay,
So they didn't develop a vaccine for Ebola. They haven't got a vaccine for the SARS virus, and they are working on it. They're hopeful, but I read quite a complex article. I couldn't actually repeat all of the science in it, but there are reasons why developing a vaccine for this virus is a very, very difficult task indeed. So I was quite disappointed because, like a lot of other people, I'm sitting back thinking, well, we're all going to be fine when we get the vaccine. And, you know, I've been thinking, well, maybe even 6 months or, you know, at the most 12. But no, they're working on it, but it's a very, very difficult task. And another thing about this virus, it's very tricky, because people who've recovered from the virus are getting reinfected.
exactly.
So even when you've had this virus, you don't keep immunity to it for very long at all. And you're open to getting it again.
Let me ask you a
Now
question.
So it's quite truly terrifying. The other problem, you know, we've been understanding that it certainly attacks the upper respiratory system and it attacks the lungs. But now medical researchers are finding that it actually attacks the heart, the liver, kidneys, and other organs in the body.
Wow.
it's here to kill us.
Vicky, let me ask you a question.
It seems that way. And all we can do at the moment is try and stay away from it. So shutting down communities is a really good thing to do. The Navajo people in the United States were hit with it very early, before even like the federal government in the US had got its head around what was happening. Unfortunately, the Navajo people are suffering quite badly from this, new infections every day and quite a number of deaths.
Is this a tribe?
Yeah, the Navajo people.
Okay, where are they located? Where are they located?
Their country extends over several states. I think Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. Yeah, and you know, like all Indigenous people, we're very family oriented. So, you know, you can have households that have 20, 30 people in them at any one time because people love to be together.
Yeah.
This is a close relationship. I know in Aboriginal Australia, your first cousins are like your brothers and sisters. Everything comes in a step closer in Indigenous communities. So people love that life. It's a lot of fun. It's, you know, it's beautiful. It's warm. It's embracing. When you're in it, it's a great way to be. But that is just the environment where the virus will run rampant. And to get the word out to people, you have to change your behaviour and then have them change their behaviour. that is a very, very difficult task. I mean, it's the same here where I'm living in the United States. We're on the 3rd floor. We can look out the window. And it's only about a week since I stopped seeing people not observing the social distance rules, getting together, talking outside of the local bodega across the street from us, a community meeting place. People love to do that. That's what makes it, such a good life, being a human being, our contact with other people. And, in spite of what's said on television, I guess, people could not change their usual way of, touching hands, hugging, touching bodies, when they meet each other.
Yeah.
And, all of those things that come naturally to us are things we're going to have to try not to do. So,
no more hug and kisses as greetings and
How do you
goodbyes.
see, in a psychological point of view, how do you see us coping, and especially the Indigenous people who are much closer together? What is the fallout you think will happen? I mean,
one of the
outside of COVID, but just the people themselves not being able to express themselves, their love and all of that. What kind of psychological effect that will have on society as we go forward, in post-COVID? What will happen to us after COVID is gone?
Well, one of the scenarios is that we might have to learn to live with this virus for some time, and they're talking about a thing called herd immunity. But now they're finding that you don't have immunity for a long time, so that's problematic too. Some people who get this virus don't have dramatic symptoms. Some people just lose their sense of taste and smell. They have a bit of an upper respiratory event for a while. They feel very tired. I just got an email yesterday from a native friend in Canada, and she believes her husband brought the virus from Utah. He was traveling, and when he got back to Canada, he got very sick, and so did she. And they were sick for about 6 weeks. In fact, both of them. The fatigue was the thing, and the very difficult problem breathing. They didn't go to medical help, but they've recovered.
Yes, the same thing happened to my sister.
The virus doesn't kill everyone. It kills people who have perhaps already compromised health. A lot of Aboriginal people in Australia have compromised health. There's a huge amount of diabetes, the heart conditions, illness that's around poor nutrition, like hardening of the arteries, all of that. That puts us in a very difficult situation when it comes to infections. But just to get back to the idea of living with the virus, there could be a wave of the virus through any given community where in the first wave they have a high death rate, high by our measure, because in our communities we never want to lose our elders. They're very precious to us. Unfortunately, people over the age of 50 and more so over the age of 60 are in problems with this virus. So you can imagine a scenario whereby this virus cuts a swathe through a community, and some people who have it develop some immunity, and then the virus cuts another swathe, and then it's around, but the people who are around have immunity and they can deal with it. They have immunity for long enough and they might get it again. They might get it again in a mild way. I don't know that it's going to go away or we're going to be through this in a hurry. The other scenario is in New Zealand are looking to eradicate it altogether. They moved very swiftly. Everyone was locked down. They had testing to trace the new cases. They followed up with everyone they'd seen. They put them in quarantine, and now they're testing at the border.
Okay.
So if you come into New Zealand, you've got to be in quarantine for 2 weeks. Same in Australia too now. They're putting travellers in hotel rooms, in hotels that are dedicated to quarantining people. And that's an attempt to eradicate the virus entirely. So there may be some countries in the world that have not actually had the virus spread through their populations.
Wow.
All of that is quite expensive. If you're going to lock down your population, it means that people can't work for a period of time. It's going to cost the economy. In Australia, they've given out money to people to stimulate the economy, because people aren't earning money. They're making 2 payments of $1,500 each to stimulate the economy, and I think they're doing similar things in New Zealand. But the government doesn't have money to last 10 years to be doing that kind of thing. There's got to be another strategy. But I think Australia and New Zealand think if they can eradicate the virus altogether and then keep their border tightly controlled, they're going to get back onto having a productive economy again quite quickly. Whereas countries that don't shut down are just going to have people sick, hospitals overloaded. Frankly, as happened in New York, mortuaries overloaded. They cannot deal with the number of dead they have in New York. I don't know if you guys have heard in Jamaica, but there've been instances of body bags on the sidewalk, and they've had to bring more refrigerated trucks to deal with the bodies because the mortuaries were overloaded. That's what happens when there's no real shutdown for some time. I mean, they've got it now after the horses bolted, you might say. But that's what happens.
One question, Vicky. Really, Indigenous people, we know that they have serious problems on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis, with the whatever government they are under. But are these government putting anything in place to help them?
Well, the Navajo Nation are saying they're extraordinarily under-resourced. They need help. They need more resources. The Navajo people have got a lot of their own services happening. I think probably even if they don't own the hospital, they've got a big interest in it. But what governments of countries have got to understand is you need to help the Indigenous communities, because they could become, a hot spot for an infection like this that impacts on the broader community, particularly if you don't have shutdown. You've got people who can carry the virus even though they have no symptoms. So if, the Navajo community, which is on Navajo lands and, a discrete Indigenous community in those states, they need to be able to shut down, and they need to get, all the masks and the gloves and the protective equipment in. They need to have the respirators to help stop people dying. They need all of those things. If they are at the forefront of this infection in the parts of the states where they live, there needs to be a lot of attention given to them, because that will also protect the broader community.
Marcia,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the same light. Have you been receiving any aid or anything at all from the government as a Maroon community?
No, we haven't received aid as a Maroon community.
Have you been
They've
in
sent
dialogue?
out a list. No, not really, because we wrote to Ministry of Culture, but
Yeah.
so far we haven't gotten a response from
But what about the
them.
Ministry
Been
of
trying to call.
what about the Ministry of Health? I mean, are they inquiring to see how the Maroon community is?
No, none have.
Okay.
Recently, I've done an interview with the observer and the cleaner, but that was for the observer and the cleaner. Ministry of Health hasn't been in our community to find out what is happening. Nor does the Ministry of Culture, as we're a culture division, and I think that they should have at least, come inside and see, because you have a country with culture, you don't have the real people, the indigenous nations that are really of the cultural division.
Yeah.
So I think they should have really come out here or called out here to see what is happening within the Maroon communities across Jamaica, because actually there are 5 Maroon villages. So you have Flagstaff, which is in Trelawney Town, a compound town in St. Elizabeth, Moortown, East Portland, Charlestown is West Portland, and Scotsall in St. Mary. And so far, none of them have heard from the Minister of Culture.
Oh my goodness. Uh,
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Marcia,
Yes,
do you have any cases in the Charlestown community?
No, we don't.
Do you have any
No,
cases?
not that I know of.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Are there any considerations to shut down the community and keep it away from possible infections?
Well, currently out here, we operate a museum and a tour facility that has been closed down from the very moment we heard about the pandemic and the coronavirus. Because most of our people that we dealt with are tourists anyways, and our people have to be first hand with them. And so in protecting our people and our community, what the first thing I did was to close down the entire work tour site. Currently, what we are considering also is to shut people out of our community, because we notice from day to day people want to come to use the river.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That was my next question.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta lock them out now.
To me, that is not safe either. And besides that, they are also littering in my community. That we don't do that. And so we are going to shut people out of our community altogether. So we're working on ways and strategies how to do that. So currently, the young men in the Charlestown Maroon Council group that are here are putting together things to shut people from the river, because we don't want them inside there littering, and we don't want it to be a place of harboring either. And since the ministry says there's a curfew time and a lockdown session in some places, I don't want it to be one of the places that you can go to get away or to hide out. I don't want that, because doing that, it would not be very, if I allow them to do that, it will be not protective for the community, and let alone we have so many children inside and old people. So we are going to take that step and make it in doing that.
That's really good news.
Yeah, great news. Do you know if the other Maroon communities are COVID free?
I know the last I heard of Moortown, when I talked to Colonel Sterling, they have COVID infection within the Rio Grande region, but not in Moortown. So in Port Antonio, they have found several cases.
Yeah. Not in the Maroon community.
Not in the Maroon community.
Okay.
I talked to the chief colonel of a compound, and also he was their community was really at least put a stop out for people for people coming in their community. So that was published in the Gleaner. And yes, we're gonna make ours known. We're gonna put it all over the airwaves and so on. For Charlottetown, I have got a briefing, and for Scottsall, when I heard of them, there were no COVID in their community.
The Maroons are COVID free. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good news.
Yeah, but move to the other part of COVID now is the lack of resources, the lack of money, lack of food. How are you coping at Charlestown in that regard?
Well, currently, we have, yes, people who are lack of stuff, but we're trying to get other people on board to aid some of the people. So we have elderly people and like children that used to be around the craft vendors and stuff that used to make their living, the drummers and dancers. So we're trying to get aid so that we can actually put in place something. The Charlestown Maroon, along with the IAF Foundation, which is the American International Funding, that we are doing a project through them. We have already gave 1 month of aid to people within the area that works within this region, as to ensure that they have their product that they need and medication supplies, so much more. And of course, food is one of the main reasons. And so we are trying to give them some more aid. So what we are doing, we are seeking other funding from other groups that came here to work, to get them even the learning process, to print the materials that our children need for working. We there's a Canadian group that has promised us richly to give us some funding in this week, so that we can look like the type lead for the printer to print the different work and so on that our children need to work within the period of time that they are at home.
Oh, that sounds great, Marcia.
I know that the Charlestown area does not have a high level of internet access. How are the children coping with the learn from home?
Well, learning from home, like I said, we have to be printing stuff for children because for example, I have an internet access, and the office here have internet access, but there are not many houses that really have their own internet. And there are also children that do not have internet to go on. So I'll just find out from their teacher, even at the primary school, what are they doing now, get it up, print it, give it to them.
Okay, wonderful.
So that's one of the things that we're actually doing. So this morning I've been around 6 places, different parents, tell them where it is on the hub, where the office is open now. There are spaces in the Asafia that they can maintain their social distance, and they can go and download. So we provide them with the internet access here, so they can download what they need to work on, and so they can have some work doing, so they won't be left behind.
That is wonderful. That means Charlestown is doing extremely well in this time of crisis.
It sounds like you're really well prepared.
Yeah.
Well, we have always been in our children's lives, so
yeah. When you are organized and you are very together, this will happen. This will happen because a lot of communities start the whole blame game and the whole problem that somebody might have it, and then everybody don't want to be close to them, and It's really it's not a nice situation. I
So
mean,
everyone is washing their hands. Everyone knows
most likely, even the men that are outside working at the moment, every now and again they go and they wash their hands. So I have to put soap on the outside so that they can, just press the top of the bottle and go to the pipe nearby, wash their hands and so on.
What
But yes,
Okay.
the
So
children
have
will
you
tell
got?
you what they need to do. You need to wash your hand, or you need to dispose your napkin, or you need to operate when you touch a door handle of why is it important to clean it. They will tell you. I mean,
Oh,
they
okay.
listen to those things. You don't
So
have a problem with that.
you don't have shortages of soap or anything like that yet, because what's
Not
happening
not
in
yet.
other parts of the world is all the shortages of basic things like
So
soap and.
so what we have done is that there is people that come through this community selling supplies. So what we have done, and we used to do this, whether or not we need it within that week that they came, we used to buy it. So when the previous
Okay.
one ran out, we would have to go back to. So that was what we would have done. I have even done that for my house. So if it is that it is run out, then you have another set to go to. Or if something happens to the people that come in the community to supply, you don't have to worry because you have supply that you can always fall back on.
Oh, that's
I
great.
was taught that way by my grandparents. They used to plant products in the farm. So sometimes the farm that they would go to is the one across the river. And so what they would have done is when they go to the farm, they would bring home a banana, two pumpkins, yam, and so on. And if they go back tomorrow, bring more yams, more pumpkins, things that can stay if the river should overflow its bank. And so
Okay. Mhm.
you keep relying on the stuff that you have until you can actually get to your farm. And so I've learned that way. So that's something that I've grown into. So doing that, I've also teach my daughter the same way. You go
that
to
is
school and you
that is
really
what you call planning. That is
right.
good planning.
So
Yeah.
you're
But
actually planning as you live.
Marcia, let me touch on another area now. The area that you're an herbalist
Yes.
extraordinaire. What can you tell the people that they can be taking, not for COVID, but to keep their immune system at the highest level?
All right. So there are many plants and herbs that you see around that you might think they're just merely bush, as some people call them. But essentially, they are extremely good, such as the Otoiti apple leaf. Many of us just look at it, oh, it's the leaf of the apple, and the fruit is good, and the fruit is good for this, and the fruit is good for that. But what does the leaf good for? Now, the leaf is one of the main immune builder you can ever have. So what
Really?
you can do, yes,
I
what
have
you can do is run
I
it.
have two
It's
huge
proven.
trees beside my house.
It
So
is proven because
tell me about it.
recently I had a nerve and immune breakdown at once. Now, in order for my nerves to be up properly, I have to build my immune. And so what I did, I use the leaf of the apple, I run it through the extractor. If you don't have an extractor, you can blend it. But let me tell you the process through the extractor first. So you run it through the extractor, and you can drink as is, or you can add what you want to it. I had a little turmeric and a little ginger because I'm a lover of ginger, and I drink that each morning and each night before bed. I did that for at least 9 days within that period, and my immune system was off again. Or you can blend the apple leaf with some coconut water and drink. Don't
Suppose
worry
you
about
don't,
it. I thought it
suppose,
was horrible, but it was like very refreshing.
suppose you don't have coconut water.
If you don't have coconut water, then when you blend with a very small amount of water, and you can either add honey to that, or you can drink it that way. It is not something that tastes very bad. If you
Okay.
want something to just give it a little flavor, you add ginger because ginger also fight against inflammatories. And
Yeah.
sometimes you break down because of the inflammatories within your system. And so a little ginger will also help. The other thing I use is the orange peel. Now the orange peel serves as what you call an inhaler. You use it to clear your ventilation here. So you boil the orange peel and you can add to that.
Well, it seems like I've lost my callers. So in the meantime, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to see if I can reach them back. So sit back and relax while I try and get them back on the line. Go ahead, Marcia.
The conversation was too powerful.
It was too powerful for them, so we got cut off.
I was fascinated listening
Yeah, me
to
too.
recipes for the immune system.
Yeah, Marcia,
And
go ahead. Start over there.
can I ask a question?
Orange peel one. Yeah, yes.
The what you call an apple, is that the same as the apple in Europe and America, like the
No, Ethiopia, right?
Otahiti.
oh, it's an Ethiopian apple.
OT, they call it OTET.
Oh, so it's a native plant
The
in
Jamaican
Jamaica.
apple. Just say the Jamaican apple.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not going to be able to get that in New York, am I?
No, I was
I don't
thinking the
know.
same thing
No,
to Vicky.
but then you can also, if you cannot get an apple, Vicky, what
Yes.
you can use is a turmeric. You can boil the turmeric with the orange peel, and you can add to that some ginger and a slice of lemon. Now the slice of lemon goes in your cup, so it alkalines your body as you drink. You can either add honey to it, or you can just have it like that, and it will help you.
Oh, lovely. I do use turmeric and ginger a lot, and
Yeah,
garlic.
that is wonderful. Yes.
I use garlic a lot. Yeah. Yeah, but the orange peel is a new thing for me. So I'll certainly look at that.
The orange peel been used in Jamaica for millions of years.
For many years.
Making tea and all that.
Yes, well, it has a nice flavour too.
But Kim, somebody was telling me you could use it for mosquito repellent also.
It is also a repellent.
Yes, it's a good repellent. It's a good mosquito repellent.
One of the repellent I mean have orange peel and lemongrass.
And do you know, in Australia, the only thing that worked for me to deal with my children's head lice they picked up from school was this orange treatment made of the orange skin.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember it was in a spray bottle. And you sprayed it all over the hair and left it on for so many minutes, and so it was very effective and a natural remedy, rather than using the very heavy chemicals,
right? Yeah,
which always worried me. But we had epidemics of head lice in the schools in Australia.
Yeah,
when my children were small, it was such a stress getting rid of that.
And one of the things that is also good is the same orange peel. You boil it in coconut oil, and you add to that some menthol crystal, and that is good for the scalp, for any bugs, lice, or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So
what do you add to it? You said you boil it in coconut oil.
Boil it in coconut oil. So you eat the coconut oil until you can actually smell the coconut oil being really heated. Then you lower the flame as low as it possibly can. You add to that the peel of about 6 oranges to 1 quart of coconut oil, and you let that boil until it changes color. When it changes the color, you take away the flame, let it cool. You pour that into your possible spray bottle, and you add your menthol crystal grain to it, and the oil will dissolve the crystal grain. And as you squeeze on the hair or spray on the hair, it begins working through the bug bite, the lice, the whatever it is. That the dry scalp, you never have dry scalp again.
Okay.
Well, tell us something about the lemongrass, fever grass.
So the lemongrass, not many people know that lemongrass is so good. So even for building the immune and for the cold from your system, what we call the mucus. The lemongrass is an excellent plant. So we use the lemongrass again with the orange peel, but this time with some thyme that you cook with.
Thyme?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that,
So you get your lemongrass. I love to use what my hand can spawn. And what I do is I washed it and I rub it as if I'm washing clothes. It will cut you if you're not careful. So you have to be gentle, rubbing it in a circular motion.
Yeah.
And that is to soften it up so that you can actually get what you want from it. Then you twist it in a bundle so that it will not be loose in the pot. You pour at least a quart or a little over a quart of water in your pot. You again take the peel of 1 orange and you wash that and you put it in. And I would say like about 2 ounces of thyme that you would cook with normally. And you put that onto the fire. Let it boil for at least 10-15 minutes. And you can pour and sip while it's hot, or you can have as a room temperature beverage. So sometimes instead of water, that is what I would drink. That is what I would give my daughter to drink. So
But
that
all
would
I do
work out quite
do
well.
now is I just put the lemongrass in a dish and then pour water on it and let it sit for a while.
Or if you have one of the hot cup Flavius, you can also use it that way. Because
Yeah.
in my hot cup at the moment I have tangerine leaf, which not many people know that is also another immune builder. And I
No?
have turmeric and
Okay.
ginger. That's what I'm taking this morning. And so I just pour my hot water in my hot cup with my turmeric and tangerine leaf cover, and I'm sipping from that.
Where do you get turmeric from?
Well, I plant a few, but those are out now because I use turmeric a lot. So I'm now buying turmeric. So
Where
the
about-
vegetable suppliers that come to our community would come with turmeric too as well.
Oh,
Or you can get it in your local market.
okay.
You can get it in a local market. Most of the time, when if it was the time that I'm going downtown, then I could get it downtown. But in your local market, in your community now, there is, and of course, rather have a line that you can call, but you still have to go and pick it up anyway, and you can get whatever you need.
So what do? You scrape it?
For my turmeric, no, I have a brush that I wash my ginger and turmeric with.
What
So
kind
you
of
can
brush is
either
that?
buy you can either
Okay.
buy one of the little hand brush, or you can buy a very new toothbrush to put in the kitchen for that. So you just have that
Okay,
and
toothbrush
you're
are
set to
using.
do that. Yes. And you brush it
Okay. Okay.
just to get the dirt off, because if you peel or scrape it, then you're throwing away the most important part. So you brush it
Okay.
just to get the dirt off. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, what I do, I thread it on the threading grater, the big side. I don't grate it small, I thread it. And also the ginger. And I use it from there. You can use that more than once if you're putting it in your hot cup. So
Okay.
I will use this throughout the day because I'm a tea drinker, so I drink tea right through the day.
No,
Um,
just
Now,
like me.
this must be a Jamaican thing. The hot cup, are you
yes,
saying? What is
yes.
that?
It's like a thermos.
Oh, okay.
So you can travel around with it and you'll have hot beverage in it for the day.
Oh, okay. That sounds
Right,
like a good idea.
right.
Yeah, brilliant.
So you can, while you're working, you can build your immune. You don't have to stop to do that. You can be building your immune while you're working. You can keep the mucus in your body not clogged up. So when it's clogged up is when you can't breathe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it's loose and can pour out, because sometimes it come up as if you're passing sinus through your throat. Sometimes that's the way it comes out of your system. But when you have it that free and it can come out, then you breathe freely. You don't have the pneumonia clogs and so much more. But building the immune with herbs and medicine is really essential. Another way of building the immune is a simple leaf of life. And now again, we use a leaf of life. We use some turmeric in it and some ginger. Now remember, leaf of life is used for that hard cold on the chest. When you have that cough and you can't get rid of it, your grandmother used to put it on the pot cover and warm it,
Mm-hmm.
squeeze it out and mix it with salt and give it to
Yep.
you. Well, this time you can
Mm-hmm.
put it in your hot cup, put a leaf in it with your turmeric again, and pour your hot water on, and you have that for the day to sip on. Or you
Okay.
can just chew on it. I know I like eating it, so most of the time I'll be chewing a leaf of life in order to, get that cold system out of and so much more. What you
Well,
must not do is consume icy cold liquid. Try to
ah,
stay with room temperature. So for people who love just taking the juice from the fridge and pouring it and drinking, no, you pour it out and then let it sit for a while. Let the glass sweat for a while. Then when it come down to almost room temperature, you drink it. So you keep mucus from your body when you do that. But if you just keep pouring in the icy stuff, you're building on the mucus.
Okay.
Avoid milk or dairy products at this moment.
Yes.
I'm not saying you can't have a little milk every now and again for people that take oatmeal in the morning, but then you know how to do that. If you take it this morning, don't take it tomorrow morning. You have to find other ways of taking your oatmeal. So, for example, you make your oatmeal in a smoothie. You use like orange and stuff, pineapple and all those things, fruits to do your smoothie instead of a milk smoothie.
What
So
about the
you have to
almond? What
find
about the
ways.
almond milk? Could
The
you use
almond milk, yes, you can. I'd rather go with the coconut milk, but the almond milk, yes, you can go with that.
or the coconut? Okay.
Yes. So you use these things as a method in order to upshape your body. One of the things that many people do and not realizing that they're hurting themselves is they consume a lot of sugar. You boil a cup of tea, you put sugar. You're making drinks, you had sugar. You're making your oatmeal, you had sugar. No. Eliminate as much sugar as possible from your diet.
Wow.
Yes, I
You
do
don't
that
you
because
don't
I'm.
need sugar at this moment. No, you're on a lockdown and you're trying to stay healthy and you're trying to build your immune, but yet you're consuming sugar.
Mm-hmm.
On top of your lockdown, you already have bread, so you don't need sugar. You don't need there's a lot of things that you don't need in that time. If you're in home, you don't even need bread because you can prepare your own stuff, right? And so these are some of the things that we need to do. We need to eliminate sugar. We need to cut down on the starch that we consume and also the salt that we intake. Not many people know that they can cook without salt and have a wonderful meal. Most of my meal is without salt, but
Absolutely.
what do I use to enhance my food? I use coconut milk, pumpkin, sweet potato, fried plantain or ripe plantain. So you can, the fried plantain can be there just to bring a flavor while you're eating, but you can also use just the ripe plantain within the dish itself. Because I'm cooking rice and peas, I lay the ripe plantain on the top, and the flavor from that would go right into the rice and peas. You don't even miss that you don't have salt in it. You know, you don't miss those things if you know how to do it. And so these are some of the things that we need to do in order to build our immune. We can't be building our immune and consuming a lot of fat, a lot of starch, a lot of sugar. The time the medicine takes to work through you is the time that it is going to take to break down some of these things so that your body can actually function. So what you need to do in order to have efficient works of different herbs and medicine, you have to first control the type of diet that you are in. Not saying you're going on a starvation plan as somebody put it recently, but it's that you're going to actually look into ways in which you can cut down. If you used to use 1 spoon of sugar, you now use half spoon of sugar. If you used to take, for example, rice for every evening of your dinner, you do rice like twice a week or 3 times for the week, and then vegetables the others. So if you used to, well, Jamaican love dumplings. So if you used to take 2 dumplings with white flour, you now start using a little wheat flour or some cornmeal within your dumpling. Or you can grate a banana to make your dumplings. So these are some of the things that we need to start doing. One of the other immune builder I really want to share with you is the one that you will like the most, the mango. So
Yes.
the mango leaf, people just eat the fruit, the mango. I love mango because I made mango juice. So instead of buying other juice, I use the fruits that will enhance. So I make mango juice with pine. No, I boil the mango leaf and the pine skin. That's the tea that you're going to be taking with ginger as also to build the immune and also to keep you active and functioning. So it provides you with energy.
So the mango leaf and the pine skin, you can boil them together.
Yeah.
All
The
right.
mango leaf and the pine what? The
Pine
pine.
skin.
Skin.
Oh yeah, we used to make juice from the pine skin long time ago.
Right. Right.
But now you're
But
going
we
to
never
mix
used
it
to
with
mix it
you're
with
going to
the
mix it
mango
with the
leaf.
mango leaf now.
Is that
Yes.
pineapple skin?
Yeah.
Yeah, pineapple.
Skin. So when you
Okay.
peel your pineapple, Vicky, you don't throw away the skin. You put them in small packages and you put them in your freezer. So you can take from that and blend to make your juice, or you can boil your tea with it.
Sounds
Wow.
good. You know, I
Wow.
could
Wow.
listen to you all
I'm
day
telling you, man,
talking
all
about
of
things.
these are
I could
ancestor
listen.
remedy that we used to use back in the days, and now that we're old enough, we don't use them that much. But I'm glad for the insight.
Yeah,
I'm glad.
But Sanko, we have to invite back Marcia for a program just on these things,
Oh yeah, definitely.
just
And
just on the urban side. Yes.
and I'm thinking if we ever do the Maroon magazine again, we've got to have Marcia's recipes
Oh yes. Oh
in
yes.
there.
Oh,
She mentioned
in
a
That
fact,
would
lot
we
be
of
should.
stuff
wonderful.
there that
In
it's
fact,
good.
we can have them now. I would imagine. In Marcia.
Right.
well, yes, you could.
Well, we need to get some. Because as I told before, we want to do a social media bliss for COVID-19, and these are excellent. These are excellent. We're just waiting on you to provide them for us so we can put them out.
On the website, certainly.
Yeah, on the website and on social media.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well,
Because we have everything ready for that to go out now. We're just waiting on you.
So, so one of the things I'll give you also is some of the meals that you can also prepare. What
Oh,
what else the meal, and you don't
that
miss
is.
your fish because you had fish to it, and I mean with your vegetable and stuff. So
I am
that's some
always
of the things that
interested
I'm giving.
I'm always interested in one pot meals. Because they normally come
I
out
love
very
one
good.
pot meal.
Yeah, they normally come out very good.
As my father used to say, the hungry man pot. So everything goes in the pot.
Everything is there, yeah?
well,
Yeah.
Mr. Moderator, Sir Moderator, we're going to have to,
Hello?
we're going to have to cut it short now and do
Yeah,
it
our
all
time is
over
running out and out, but
another
we're
time.
definitely inviting Marcia and Vicky back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
You know,
because both of them
from
have a lot of
from
interesting stuff that we need to get more
from
of.
probably next week Monday or so,
Okay.
because
Whenever you're ready.
we need to delve
Okay.
more in this. I am very interested in this food thing. I think that is where everything is happening now, because the body must be allowed to heal itself
Yeah.
and to fight
Yes.
anything that's out there.
Yes.
And they only can do that if you have the proper food, the proper things to drink and all that, and you understand what you're doing, what you're getting, and the body is better for it. You
Uh,
know.
And the mechanism of the know-how. Also, another
Oh
person
yeah.
you can invite to do some of these herbal talks to Flavius is Gamma Gloria since Mama G.
Okay,
And
then we could
Yes.
we
she
could
also
probably
do
Yes, Mama G. Mhm.
yeah,
we could invite you and Mama G the next time, yeah, and Vicky, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Speak to her for me now, please.
Yes, certainly I will.
Yeah, speak to her, because I think this morning has been great. Yeah, the amount
Absolutely.
of information
Absolutely.
that we put out here,
There's so many
and no,
information.
we're not scratching the surface. Scratch the surface. This is an appetizer
well,
of things to
for,
come.
for for things going forward, what we need to do is whatever we have around us, we use them. Don't be afraid to put things together, because if you can eat them by themselves, or if you can put them in the same pot, you can combine them for drinking or so much
Yeah.
more. So
Okay.
these are some of the things that we need to start doing as a people. You know what sweet potato will do, and you know what pumpkin will do. And of course, you had them in a soup. Why not add them in a juice? So you
Yeah.
know
Oh,
what to do.
Pumpkin and
All
sweet
right.
potato juice.
This is more interesting, yeah?
I love that one with a little ginger.
with a little ginger.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it's quite lovely. Yes.
But this is wonderful. This is very,
I think
very, very, very good.
I've listed all of the stuff them or a portion of the stuff that you mentioned, and these are some of the stuff that I've heard a lot of people mention that can fight the virus right now, like the lemongrass, the orange peel, the ginger, the turmeric, tangerine, skin, and all of those things.
Yeah.
And is what
One of the other things that is used and to fight the virus is the lemon juice itself.
uh
But
huh.
what they had to it is the sodium bicarbonate, the baking soda.
Yeah.
Soda, yeah.
So people with high blood pressure is not encouraged to really drink that. But
People
what
do?
they do is like high blood pressure. High
Mm.
blood
Okay.
pressure.
Mm.
Okay.
What they do is like a quarter teaspoon of baking soda with 2 spoons of orange juice in hot water, and
Hmm.
they drink that, and it pulps the mucus out. No,
Oh,
people that have high blood pressure wouldn't use a quarter teaspoon. It's not encouraged to take more than one, either.
Hmm.
You understand me? You have to take it one time, but when you sip it in, everything from head clog to chest tightness and cough, everything comes out.
You're saying the
You
what?
just have
hmm?
it poured out, draining from your nose, draining, you're coughing it up, you're throwing it up, all that. That is something I've experienced. But it does
My,
send
pro-
the
my,
pressure up.
my,
Oh,
my problem with that is that lemon can be had these days.
No, so what I do, I go into the supermarket or I send to the supermarket and I buy the bottle of lemon.
You buy the bottle what? Oh, okay.
Lemon. So they
Okay.
have lemon juice in bottles. I buy them. I buy like 6 or 12 and I put them in the fridge. Or
I
I
didn't know
store
that.
them, they can store without going on the fridge. And I
I didn't
use
know that.
them. Those are what
I,
I use in my tea.
I know they
Yeah.
have lime juice. I didn't know they have lemon juice too.
Yes, they have
Oh,
lemon juice too as well.
okay.
Lime and lemon is very oxidative tea. So what you have to do is to buy lime and lemon juice and the lime juice and put them down.
Yeah.
Do you have eucalyptus oil in Jamaica?
We
Oh,
have a
yeah.
lot. One of my
Yeah.
main medicine or my pain rub is made with eucalyptus oil.
Mhm.
It's also very good if you put a couple of drops in steaming boiling water and put a
Yes.
towel over your head and breathe
With the
it in.
same lemon and orange peel in it, you can also put your eucalyptus oil or even
Oh, you put the lemon and orange peel in the inhalant.
right. Yes.
Really? That sounds interesting.
And after you had that team that you are taking,
Yeah.
the tea that you're going to drink when you're finished is going to be the lemon and the lime, the lime juice and the orange peel tea, or the lemon juice and the orange peel tea. That's the tea that you're drinking to continue the flow of air and oxygen. What you can do though, within your lung area, you can have someone beating that area, not literally to kill you, but by way of massaging,
like pat your
like
back,
a
like
tap,
pat your back a
yes,
little.
It's
Okay.
like
fascinating.
pat
Yeah.
your
Yeah, I've
right,
seen
Yeah.
that too. I've
and get
seen
that
that.
area warm just before your water is ready. So it loosens the mucus. So by steaming now, it will flow out like flow, flow, flow. Before you know it, you're free of your head clog, your chest tightness, and all that.
Yes, it clears the sinus and everything.
Yes.
Wow,
The
Mhm.
wow,
eucalyptus.
wow, 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 man. This you have
Naturally,
me
you
say
can also
wow.
use the what's the name of that plant in Flavio? It
What's
smells
that?
so horrible.
Not leave alive.
And
What
No,
is
not
that?
Tommy,
leaf
do
of
you
life.
have
I should tell you the name of that plant. As soon as I remember it, I tell you. It smells so horrible. You use it for pain. It is good for sinus. The root of it is what people mostly use.
Okay.
Um,
what is that?
it is It is known as the stinking bush.
Okay.
Not stinking Mary now, you know. I can't remember the name of the plant when I want to. And I just gave it to somebody not long ago. And so we use that plant as a way of getting the mucus out of our system.
Okay.
What I need the name of the plant, I can't remember it. But yes, that plant can use. I'll tell you the name as soon. I'll text it in Flavius and you text it to them. And so you use it to clear your headspace too as well. It is very strong. It is very, very strong. I have it set with rum and alcohol.
Let me ask a question.
It's Guinean weed.
Guinean weed. Okay. Yes. Most of what you are saying boils down to getting mucus out of your body.
Mm-hmm. I'm building the immune system as well.
So you have to take the mucus out first before you can build the immune
system. Okay.
So one of the things is that we have remedy to build the immune, but they will not be as effective if you have mucus still living in your system. So what you have to first do is to get the mucus out of your system and then build entirely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So mucus is our main problem.
Right. Mucus is what caused the starting. Mucus is what gives them the pneumonia reaction.
Okay.
In the virus, in the coronavirus, yeah.
All that.
Okay.
The mucus in the system cannot use out.
Is it true that we've been talking for nearly 2 hours?
Nah, not that long. But it's time for us to go. But it's time for us to go. So we're gonna close out. Sir Moderator Flavius.
No, you're the joke now. You're the joke now, Marcia.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a text.
Yes.
That is the plant she's trying to remember. Guinean weed.
Mm-hmm.
The Taino name is Anamu.
Anamu, yes.
So you know who that's coming from?
Okay.
Yeah, but so you don't know what? People are listening to us.
Mm-hmm. That's what we want them to do.
If you call the name before you actually go and look it, you will never find it. Just like I couldn't remember the name of it just now.
Why?
I don't know why it happened that way. It always happened that way. There are certain plants that you're going to look for that you cannot say the name of, right? And so those are things that we have grown with. Now, when I'm reaping my plant, I fill my mouth with water or with some rum. And I go ahead and I look my plant. And before you know it, I find all the plants that I'm looking for. You know, and those are some of the things that we actually do when we're looking for the things that we need.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So it's from grandparents.
I didn't know they call Guinean weed the stinking plant. I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. I know. Okay. In fact, somebody wants to bring some for me and they still don't bring it. I'm saying can't find any. Probably because they might talk about the name.
Mm.
If you just know where it is and get there.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky, Jamaica is blessed with plants, especially in Portland. Blessed
I
with
noticed
plants.
that when I was there for the conference.
Yeah.
The festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people were there selling the herbs and giving advice on them.
Yeah, but we have most of the herbs that are medicinal in the world.
Okay.
And people like Marcia who knows how to use them, know what they're for, and
Wonderful.
My mother, before she died, she always send me, go pick 5 leaves of this, and that. Always. but I don't really know them that much.
Yeah,
I just,
what my grandfather used to do is he just tell you go by the kitchen side. You see a tree. It looks so and so. It is called so and so. Don't say the name. Just pick some and bring come. If you bring the one wrong one, he will send you back with a description again, and you go and you look it until you know it.
yes.
So he will just send you to where you know you can find some of the plant. And so that is one of the way we get to know the plant and get to know the use of it. When he's normally boiling medicine for people, I'm normally around. So I get to know some of these things and I get to learn it. Since
Yeah.
recently I said to my mother, I miss the way my grandfather would send me to look the plant. And right now, when I was talking to her, I was drinking a very bitter one, which is called Pitney Muma Bush. And so I said, right now I'm drinking one of the favorite plants he would boil for women that just come from the hospital, Pitney Muma Bush. And it does so many things. You would be surprised. From cleansing the bloodstream, for that gassy feeling in your stomach, for purification, just about everything. And so we'll use those as a form of remedy and treatment. And so today we continue to use those as a form of remedy or treatment. So those are some of the ways in which we learn about them and learn the use of them. So it's not like you go into a book to learn that. Those were directly taught to you growing up.
And
It's a
then
beautiful
down,
way to live.
and then down of the knowledge, Vicky.
And then down.
Yeah. And we
So
have
this is where we say meet in the circle. Meet me
yeah,
in the circle.
yeah, we haven't been doing enough of that. And a lot of people are leaving us with all the knowledge, and we don't, we're not preserving the knowledge.
Yeah.
And we have to get to that now.
We have to
So what
talk to
I
them
try
more
to
too. We have to
do, not
talk to our elders more and get get to hear
right,
their
right,
stories. That's what we need to do. Talk to
right.
them more.
Oh, yes.
When you communicate, you know just what they are really doing and what they hope to get done. So some of the things that you learn from them is that when you teach, you don't go as if you're in a classroom setting. You call somebody. For example, I'm at home and I'm going to make tea. I said to my daughter, "What tea you would like today? We are going to drink some herbs." And so we'll be drinking herbs for 2 months. And within the 2 month time, every morning you should tell me a different tea that we're going to drink. Why is it that we are drinking the tea? What is it that the plant is good for? So if you don't know what the plant is good for, it's then my duty to ensure that you know. And so even this morning, my choice of tea, tangerine, is an energizer. And tangerine is used also to develop um, the, 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 the the system, the respiratory system. So not many people can just literally sweat like that. Their systems are clogged. And
Okay.
it's not clogged because they are not taking care of themselves. It's because the way their pores are set up. And so one of the things that they should eat a lot of is tangerine, right? And
Okay.
tangerine is the fruit that don't contain the amount of acid like lemon and orange. And so in using those plants, you develop. I said, today I need to boost my energy. And so, and while boosting my energy, I need also to build my immune. And she said, that would be tangerine. And I said, okay. And what would build the immune? And she said, well, we have turmeric. And so there and then I know that teaching don't just come like that.
She's learning. She's learning.
Many, right.
That's
Yeah,
wonderful, man. Wonderful.
yeah, man. Really,
So
man.
by the time she catch 16, 17, she should know all this.
Yeah.
So that's one of my goals. Or
Beautiful,
hate.
beautiful. Well, now we have hit the 2 hour mark.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah.
Well,
Those
it's
are-
been such a delight. Thank you so
That's why
much
it's
for
called a
inviting
chat
me.
session, because we just can't. We keep on talking and talking, and a lot of stuff going come out, and I mean,
Yeah.
I've
Well,
learned a
I like to
lot.
say, yeah, it's a wonderful program. And yes, when I first saw it, I asked Phoebus, what exactly is this about? But then when I go through, I realize what it is about, and it was really wonderful sharing some of the things that I know and hoping someone would use some of these remedies to actually build their immune and to help to fight the COVID. Actually, what we can take most time in our life is the things that we have around us. So using those things, we can also build the properties around us, even our body, heart, mind, and soul. And so in doing that, we will help each other to be strong. Let us take in what we have around us. Feature the bush, while the bush, and drink the bush.
Thank you.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
wonderful,
Thank you very
wonderful.
Thank
much.
you so much,
Absolutely
Marcia.
beautiful.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you, yes.
Merasi, merasi.
And
So,
thank you, Vicky. Thank you very much. And like I said, we need to have you post back on, and we're going to schedule a time, give you a little time to get over this 2 hour thing. But
Well, you all have a beautiful day.
you too,
thank
Vicky.
you very
You
much.
You
too,
too,
Vicky.
Vicky.
Yes.
And thank you again,
Thank you.
Marcia.
Thank you, my
Thank
friend.
you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
Okay.
you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So,
Okay,
Flav,
Franco, you
yes,
can
I can
close
close.
off
I
now.
can close off. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just you and me now.
Okay.
So what I would like to say is we can definitely schedule another chat like this. I
Yeah,
have it
man.
on audio as well, but one of the things that I really like, and I want us to touch on it in another show, is more about the different peels, lime peel, orange peel, ginger, turmeric, and the
Yes.
tangerine.
Like I said, we can invite her back for a full program with on that. I mean, we can invite Vicky also, and then you have this other lady that is part of the Maroon thing, lives in Charlestown to Mama G.
Okay.
Apart, well, Tim is recommending that she have a lot of stuff, and also Fokier, she's a wealth of knowledge also,
Okay.
so we can bring her on too.
Absolutely, no problem.
And she also coming from the China perspective and from the Akan perspective. So she's a priestess.
Well, with all this said and
In that
done,
time.
you can
Yeah.
hold the line while I take you out. All right.
Okay.